Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bet Sports Betting Podcast presented by the Six Pack Coverage Media Network. It's your host, Jeff Farrell, here with my co-host, Andrew Tanzi, coming at you to break down everything you need to know for Week 3 of the NFL season. We'll start off with a little Week 2 recap, go over how the bets went, how we did last week, and then we will go game by game for every game on the Week 3 slate and close it off with our long shots, best bets, and chalk donkey parlay. Last week, debate of the week. We ended up voiding this one. We had the Bucs and the Saints. You had -3. I had Saints +3. You ended up covering. There were more concerns on the Bucs side, but it was kind of a disaster. So I don't think either of us really felt too comfortable. Kamara was out. Jameis was playing with a fractured back. Godwin, Julio. I mean, it was a disaster. So.
Yeah, I ended up not even betting the game, and I know you had off-season bets on the
Oh,
Saints.
I bet the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I don't know that you would have even betted if you didn't already have money on it at the time. So it's just
Not after the injury report. No, I mean we didn't know about any of that when we were recording.
Yeah, we recorded on Tuesday, so we didn't have a ton of information at that time. And then it felt like come the weekend, everything between Kamara and Winston and just everything went in the pooper. So yeah.
All right. So I will remain with a 1-game lead in our debate of the week. We do have one this week. Favorite bets of the week. You took an unfortunate loss. You teased the Steelers up to +7.5, which was a great bet. And then the Bengals down to -1.5. What the heck is wrong with Joe Burrow and the Bengals?
Oh, it's not Burrow. It's an offensive line that's allowed 13 sacks in the first 2 weeks of the season. You start to feel bad for Joe Burrow. What's the guy supposed to do? And as soon as he drops back, he got all 5 or 4 defensive linemen right in your face. It was absolutely atrocious performance. All we heard all offseason was how this Bengals team upgraded their offensive line, and it's just
when is that going to happen?
Yeah, it's been. And now La'el Collins is not practicing today, so not looking good.
Yeah, we'll see how the Bengals do this week. I got a nice win. I got the under in the Patriots Steelers at 40.5. That one was never really in doubt. So we both go to 1-1 on the year. Long shots of the week. You came through with a big win here. James Robinson anytime touchdown and the Jags money line outright over the Colts. How are you feeling about the long shot?
Yeah, I felt a lot more confident just going. Like I said, we recorded on Tuesday, but as the week went on, I probably would have ended up making the Jags my favorite bet of the week. I just really loved them in that spot, and I just think the Colts were extremely overrated. So I like what I'm seeing from this Jags team right now. I feel good about the off-season ticket I put on them at +700 to win the division. So yeah, that was a great win to make up for my favorite bet losing.
They're still at like a pretty big price to win the division. Like, I don't know if now's the best time to bet it just because it's probably a loss versus the Chargers this week. Like, you can still get a +310 on them to win the division when they're winning the division right now. That seems kind of crazy given the current state of the Colts and the Titans. So
yeah,
you didn't jump on. Yeah, go ahead.
So as I say, you have the Colts playing the Chiefs this week, obviously an extremely
right. So maybe they both get a loss.
And the Titans they're playing the Raiders, so not an easy matchup. They go to 0-3. The Colts go to 0-3. The Jaguars we could be looking at them at +150 after this week if they pull an upset against the Chargers. Who knows what's up with Justin Herbert right now? So
yeah, if you didn't get in the offseason, I think now's not a bad time to buy in.
Yeah.
I ended up voiding my long shot of the week, so mine was a little bit weird. I had a Jamal Williams anytime touchdown. At the time we recorded, we had no idea that DeAndre Swift was apparently banged up. So I was looking for like a +250 to bet this. All the books basically opened him as like +110 and just like never changed his odds to score. So hopefully no one bet this, but this was not really the long shot I was looking for. So I'll stay at 0-1. Prop sheet, big bounce back weeks. The prop sheet, nice 9-6 on the weeks. We move back to an even 15-15 overall. Some really good calls. Tyreek Hill smash, Diggs smash, Cortland Sutton. So felt really good about them. Unfortunately, Gesicki, him going over really hurt me. I was pretty heavy on his unders. And then, man, Cole Kmet, screw that guy.
It's you can't blame him when an offense is.
Screw him! I'm blaming him. I blame the offense, Justin Fields, Cole Kmet, the whole Kmet family. Screw them.
I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt after week 1 when they threw the ball 15 times in a monsoon, but apparently playing in good weather, they threw the ball even less. I mean, I don't know what.
Can't use logic with this passing offense. Apparently, it just...
you're losing them as the entire game, and you only throw 11 passes. It doesn't even make sense.
If you ever catch us taking a Bears passing game over in any way, please call us out immediately.
Yeah.
So back to even on the prop sheet, looking to keep that train rolling here. And then the chalk donkey parlay 0-2. Tough start for heavy favorites this year. We had the Broncos, who barely won, the Packers easy, and then the Bengals cost us in multiple ways this week. So
Yeah.
Thank you to the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, heroes and zeros of the week. Who you got for hero of the week?
My hero of the week is Kyler Murray from the dead.
Oh my God.
From the dead. I felt like everyone I listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot throughout the week. I didn't hear anyone backing this Cardinals team. And boy, going into the fourth quarter, did I not feel great about it. But Kyler Murray pulled out some tricks from a video game to get this cover for me. And they end up winning in overtime on a Hunter Renfrow fumble. That was just an electric performance from Kyler Murray. Just put the team on his back.
I mean, it literally looked like when you play Madden with a running quarterback and you just run backwards like 40 yards to buy yourself enough time. And then he like weaves his way through the whole. I mean, it was just like, oh my God. What have we done?
I needed that cover too. After the Ravens blew that game for me, I wasn't feeling great. And then I had the Bengals losing a teaser where I had a lot of money on them. So I needed Kyler there for me, and he came through. So definitely my hero of the week. And he may have saved Cliff Kingsbury's job too. Who knows?
For now.
For another week.
My hero of the week, I'm going to go with Steph Diggs. Love watching this guy play football. So much emotion, passion. He'll let you know as soon as he burns you and beats you for a touchdown. He was magnificent on Monday night. I was pretty heavy on the Bills on -7, -7.5. We had the Diggs over on the prop sheet. So really enjoyed watching him absolutely ball out for the second week in a row. So Steph Diggs, my hero of the week. Who do you have for your zero of the week?
It's the Bengals offensive line. Like I said, just an absolute disaster right now. 13 sacks allowed in the first 2 weeks. Can't even allow Joe Burrow to use those weapons he has on the outside. And it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for the other team. When you're letting up that many sacks and your quarterback can't get in a rhythm, it's going to be pretty tough to win a game. So Bengals offensive line, figure it out, get it together. We got the Jets this week, so I'm feeling a little bit of a bounce back, but we'll get to that later. But for now,
we'll save that for later.
Yeah, for now, the Bengals line is my zero of the week.
One man's hero of the week is another man's zero of the week. For me, it was the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr, Josh McDaniels, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, the whole freaking team. I had Raiders -2.5 and the under 51.5. Never in doubt from the first snap of the game. Somehow they're up 23-7, like late in the fourth quarter. I have 21.5 points of room on the under. The Raiders covering the spread should never be in doubt. The game goes to overtime. And I mean, just like, I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I lose the Raiders money line. I lose the -2.5. The under loses by 0.5 point. I mean, it was just like something made up in like in a lab to make me pissed off. It was not a good way to end the 4 o'clock slate. So the Las Vegas Raiders, screw you guys.
Yeah, and look, you're almost seeing not I don't want to say a shift in the NFL, but one, these teams need to start taking note, and us as bettors need to start taking note that this in today's NFL, you can't lay down. These teams,
no lead is safe.
I mean, the Ravens were up 21 points in the fourth quarter. The like you just said, the Raiders were up 16 points. The Browns were up 13 points in a minute and a half. The Lions almost came back against the Eagles last week. The Commanders made a run at this week. So when you're winning by a few scores, you got to keep airing it out and trying to put points on the board. And us as bettors, we need to keep that in the back of our heads that the backdoor opportunities are real. Teams are playing from behind, and they are able to put up 14 to 20 points in one quarter to cover these spreads. So.
Yeah, you may have to start looking at some of these live dogs a bit more when they go down after 2 or 3 quarters or something. It's just crazy. Like, you have so much success. Like the Ravens were passing the ball all over.
That game was over.
That game was over. They get a lead and they try and like run the ball with these dudes that just can't do anything. It's just like, you're having so much success passing. Like, just keep doing that. So it just. Yeah, we'll see if that's a trend that continues. I did want to mention one more thing before we jump into the week 3 games. We are going to start doing something on Twitters with the openers. So posted something this week around 7:45, 8 o'clock Eastern time every week. The opening point spreads and totals will come out for all the games of the following week. And I think if you want to be a serious bettor in the NFL, like I think you really need to be paying close attention to the opening lines. I think that's really where all the value is. If you show up to bet an NFL game on Sunday morning, that line's been sitting there for days where thousands of people have been betting millions and millions of dollars getting the line to an efficient place. So the chance that you're finding value that close to the game time is so little. Whereas the opening lines, it's literally no one has touched them. You can get in there and get so many off numbers. And I mean, so we put out 3 bets this week: the Steelers and Browns under 40.5. That total is currently 38.5. Saints and Panthers under 43. That totals 40.5. Packers Bucs under 45.5. That totals 41.5. So just the 3 bets that we placed, that's a collective 8.5 points of CLV. So definitely would recommend everyone check that out at BetRightPod. We'll be posting some notes and thoughts on them every week. And then hopefully we won't feel as bad when we go through all the games that are talking about numbers that no longer exist, because you guys can get them too. Anything to add?
Nope.
All right. Ready to jump into week number 3?
Let's do it.
All right. Thursday Night Football, Steelers and the Browns. AFC
Barn burner,
North.
Baby.
Oh, yeah. This one is a sky-high total of 38.5. Browns are 4.5-point home favorites. Couple injuries. TJ Watt's obviously still going to be out for the Steelers, and then Jadeveon Clowney is going to be out for the Browns. It does sound like Myles Garrett and Jack Conklin are both going to play. Where are you at here on this game? Do you like Mike Tomlin as an underdog here? Because we know you like Mike Tomlin as an underdog.
Yeah, this is, and look, take out the Mike Tomlin underdog and all that stuff. You just look at this matchup. First of all, we have a 38.5 point total, and the line is there still 5s in the market, or is it at 4.5 now?
I believe all the 5s are gone, but I mean, 5 is pretty much a dead number. The difference between 5 and 4.5 is basically nothing.
Still, yeah, you're getting 4.5 points in a divisional game with a 38.5 point total. You got to take the points there. And yes, the Steelers certainly miss TJ Watt on the defensive line. I think we saw that last week. It was definitely a big issue, and the offense hasn't eclipsed 300 yards in either of the first 2 games yet. But this Browns team, they're not a good team. Their offense, it's not a good offense. And Jacoby Brissett, I think, is a fine backup, but you don't have to worry about explosive plays with this offense. This is going to be an ugly, grinded out type of game where one defensive score, one turnover could be the difference in this game. So I just think in those types of games, you're taking over a field goal in it every time. And I don't even mind the Steelers in like an unconventional teaser here from 4.5 to over 10.5, just with this 38.5 point total. I think that something like that would be in play for me as well.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I also took the Steelers today at plus 4.5. Like we said, we both got the under on the openers. If you didn't get a chance to get the under game 40.5, I still think the Browns team total under 21.5 is a pretty decent play, getting it over that 3 touchdown line. I do think, despite the fact that I like the Steelers to cover the spread, and maybe if they win the game, they stick around. But I think this is going to be Mitch Trubisky's last start in the NFL for maybe ever. I mean, they need to turn to Kenny Pickett here. I know that they're 1-1 right now. They haven't been too bad, but I think the offense has been pretty brutal. The one thing that does concern me, there is a huge mismatch in the trenches. The Browns offensive line ranks number 1 in the league in adjusted line yards. Steelers defense is 19th. And then on the other side of the ball, the Steelers offensive line is definitely going to be outmatched by the Browns defensive line. So I do think, Nick Chubb can have a big game, but I still think this just kind of comes back to what we talked to last week when it was Browns against the Jets. Like, asking Jacoby Brissett to win by margin against any NFL team is not something that should be done right now. We saw the Jets come back and cover the spread last week. They ended up winning the game. So short week on the road, but it's not a long road trip. Mike Tomlin knows what he's doing. He'll have these guys ready to go. So I think this has to be a play on the Steelers at this number. There's just, you have no choice.
It's crazy to me it's going up as much as it is. And I understand the Browns being slight favorites here, but to get this at 3.5 or better, to me, it's something you have to take every time, win or lose this bet.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen over the course of the Steelers over the last few years, this bet wins more often than it loses. So I think that the value is definitely there.
I think we're at like 46, 23 and 2. I'll have to check that. Right around there for Mike Tomlin underdog. So, and this isn't like last week where we're getting 1.5 points as an underdog or 2 points. We're getting a pretty good number here in a low total game. So, and would you obviously, you're not going to get a 40 on the total now, but say people, didn't get in right away and they're looking to bet the total. What would you bet this total under to? Like what's the lowest you would go? Would you still bet under at 38.5?
No, I wouldn't. So I did just mention that. I said if you didn't get a chance to get under 40.5, I would look at the Browns team total under 21.5.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Would you still bet the total now?
I probably wouldn't. I think when a 3 comes into play, like a 30, something in the 30s, is kind of when I back off, especially when you do have mistake prone quarterbacks where there's a chance that poor offense and turnovers can lead to the other team getting points. So that's kind of what scares me off. You have little margin for error when you start going into the 30s. Like one special teams touchdown or something like that could end up making a huge difference.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Prop looks for you in this one. We do have
Yeah,
lines for this game. We have lines for a decent amount actually this week, but what do you have on this one?
I got no props in this one.
Nothing?
No.
All right. I have a couple here. Nick Chubb. So this, I actually don't know what the updated numbers are. I like his over rush yards and also over rush attempts. Let's see what the most accurate numbers are right now. All right, so his rush yards are up to 82.5. That's pretty high. I'd probably lean to the attempts. You can still get 15.5 at decent juice or 16.5 at plus 100. So last week 22 for 141. The prior week 17 for 87. So I mean, we know the Browns are going to feature Chubb. I think they're going to need him on the ground. So I think getting this rush attempt total is a pretty good look. And I also took Mitch Trubisky under 200.5 passing yards. He's been under this in each of the last 2 weeks. The offense has no creativity. There's been rumors that, people are fighting inside the building because Matt Canada is basically not designing any creative plays. There's no explosiveness. Their longest play of the entire season is 32 yards. So already like the under in the game, expect it to be low scoring. I think Trubisky's yards need to be lined in like the high 180s.
All
right. Anything left to say?
Nope.
All right, moving on to Sunday here. Let's go Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots. Patriots are 3-point home dogs. Over under is 43.5. There's actually some 2.5 starting to enter the market. So it looks like people are buying in on the Patriots here as a home dog. Couple injury notes for the Ravens as usual. Devin Duvernay and J.K. Dobbins are both going to be questionable. I think Marlon Humphrey was iffy in practice, but he played last week, so I'm assuming he should be fine. I feel like this is a game. I don't have a bet on this one right now. I feel like this is one where whoever dictates the pace of play and the style of game that it is going to have a chance to come out with the win. So, the Patriots really want to run the ball, bleed the clock, grind it out, limit the number of possessions, whereas the Ravens obviously have a lot more explosiveness. We've seen Lamar hit a few big plays himself, hit a few to Devin Duvernay. Rashad Bateman's been really explosive. So I think whoever can kind of dictate the pace here has a good chance to come out with a win. Now that 2.5s are starting to enter the market, I may have to look at the Ravens. I kind of thought that this one was going to sit at 3 all week. Where are you at here? Do you have a play on the side or total?
Yeah, I thought it was going to go the other way. I took the Ravens
at
3. I took the Ravens at -3, and I took them on the money line at -150 because it seemed like a bad number compared to other books I saw on the -170. So I thought
it's only -146 now. So the money line's still around where you got it at.
Yeah, so it moved the other way. But I just think what killed the Ravens last week, they were playing down that Miami humidity and the speed of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and that whole offense. It just wore them down. They were playing from behind. They were passing. The Ravens couldn't keep the ball on offense, so this defense was just on the field too much. You don't have to worry about that with this Patriots team. I'm not worried about Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar wearing down this defense. And I liked what I saw. You saw this MVP Lamar come back after a sluggish start week 1 versus the Jets. Lamar comes out, throws for over 300 yards, rushes for over 100. So that's what I wanted to see from this offense. The defense wasn't concerning. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not going to go into a game versus the Patriots and be like, oh my God, I got to worry about this Ravens secondary covering this receiving core. So I still think this Ravens team is a class above the Patriots. And I just think it's this Bill Belichick thing, keeping this Patriots line down and overrating them a bit in the market. But there's just nothing. There's no weapons on this offense. You still have Joe Judge and Matt Patricia calling the offense. I don't think that scares anybody. And there's not much on the defense. So I don't know that they have any linebackers good enough to stick with their spy.
Their defense has been really good. I mean, I know they played the Steelers last week, but like they didn't have that much trouble with the Dolphins.
No, they didn't.
Their defense looked good.
No, you're right. But I really still think the Ravens are a class above, and I think getting them a field goal or lower. Like if put it this way, if the Ravens go up like they did against the Dolphins, the Patriots don't have the firepower to come back like the Dolphins.
Totally.
So I like the Ravens here.
I think I'm with you. I think I'm gonna end up betting the Ravens here and join you. I think seeing Lamar really take off and run last week made me feel a lot better because I was getting nervous because week 1 he really wasn't running the ball at all. They have absolutely nothing in the running game from the running backs. Justice Hill, Kenyon Drake, Mike Davis combined for under 30 rushing yards. I mean, they need J.K. Dobbins back so bad. Maybe this is the week he gets back. He's still probably going to be limiting his touches, but I think at least with Lamar using his legs a little bit, went for over 100 yards last week. I think that I can get on board with the Ravens here.
Awesome.
Props for you in this one.
Yeah, I want to see where Lamar's rush yards come out. I actually bet them right at the open last week at 49.5. I think by the time we posted the prop sheet, it was in mid 50, so that's why I didn't make it on there. But I think anything under 60 right now is a pretty good play with him until they get Dobbins back to full strength and have a real running back they can rely on. I think Lamar is going to have to carry a lot of the load on the ground. So I like him anything. And you see it takes one run where the defense gives Lamar space and he can break a 50, 60 yarder. So anything under 60, I think I'll take with Lamar.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to be looking at Jacoby Myers receptions. There was a weird report that came out today that he went to get like a knee scan done, that he's not officially out or like going to miss any time, but it was kind of like a precautionary thing. So we'll see what happens there. But if Jacoby Myers does play, he's clearly the number one target in this offense. 9 for 95 against the Steelers last week, easily led the team in targets in both games. So I think he's going to be lined around 4.5 or 5.5 catches. So I think that I think he could be a good play against the susceptible Ravens secondary. All right, moving along on Sunday, let's go to the Bills and the Dolphins. Very interesting clash of two undefeated AFC teams. Dolphins are 5.5. Oh, whoa, this one's moving too. Dolphins are up to plus 6.5 on FanDuel. So some Bills money has come in. The over-under is 52.5. Gabe Davis looks like he's going to be questionable again. There were a few guys that missed practice for the Bills today in their secondary, but I don't think either of them are expected to miss. The over has been up a few points here. I think this one started around 51. It's now up to 52.5, 53. And these are two of the top 3 teams in the league in pass rate over expectation. What do you have in this game here? Are you is this a buy? Not really buy low on the Dolphins, but like the spread does seem like it's pretty inflated. Where are you at on this one?
I bet the Dolphins. I don't love it, but it's not my biggest bet of the week. It's not my most confident, but once the 6 and 6.5 came in the market, I felt like I had to pull the trigger. And I'm not going to sit here like I've been saying and then pump the brakes on the Bills. They're a dominant team. However, we saw a lot last year. This team comes out and absolutely dominates, but then they have some performances where they're like, a little shaky. Like, they lost some bad games last year and they were in games with teams they shouldn't have been. So we saw the firepower from this Dolphins, obviously, last week. And the Ravens were supposed to be one of the better secondaries in the league coming into this year. So I've been waiting. Well, at least week 1 with the Rams, I was targeting the Rams because I thought they'd be able to take advantage of this Bills secondary. Well, now like the Ravens, you got the Bills down in this Miami humidity having to chase Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill around. So Dane Jackson got hurt on Monday night, so he's probably going to be out along with Trey White, who is still out. So I think this is a good spot for the Dolphins. And if nothing less, the Bills get up to a pretty decent lead, and you have the Dolphins in the fourth quarter again with this firepower where they can put up some points and come from behind. And 6.5 is enough where you could easily get a backdoor cover late in the game. So give me the Dolphins here.
This one's tough. I don't know if I want to step in front of this Buffalo Bills team right now. Their defenses look so good. Like, I think it's going to be a really interesting game. Like, I want to see how the speed of the Dolphins matches up against this Bills team. Cause like, I mean, obviously, I don't know how much you can take against the Titans last week because they just don't have the skill players. But like, they dominated the Rams week 1. Like, Cooper Kupp could get a little bit going, but like outside of that, the Rams offense couldn't do anything. They scored 7 points. Like, what if this Bills defense is just incredible?
It could be, but at the same time, the Rams is one game. We neither of us were high on the Titans. You're covering Treylon Burks and Robert Woods.
Yeah, I don't think that one really matters,
yeah, the Rams one was impressive, and obviously the offensive line issues contributed to that a ton. So I don't know. I can't, like, I don't want to underreact to what the Bills have done, but at the same time, I don't want to overreact. To me, and this is one of those games, like I'm kind of saying, like, I don't factor in home field advantage a ton, but these teams in going down in September in Miami, that stuff tires you out, especially when you're trying to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on every play. What do you think happened to the Ravens last week? That's what happened. They got
Their
worn down.
secondary got burned. I don't know if it had anything to do with Miami.
Got worn down. They
could have played that game anywhere, and they're just not as fast as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Nobody is, and neither is the Bills now. What, we have third string, fourth string corners on the field now?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they have better scheme. Maybe they can schematically handle them better, because whatever the Ravens were doing was not working.
Well, it worked for three plus quarters, and then
not really. Waddle had like 100 yards by halftime.
Yeah.
They just didn't have as many points on the board. I don't know. We'll see. I think this is going to be a very interesting game. It's definitely Dolphins or pass. I would not be laying it with the Bills here. Maybe like you said, I don't think this Bills offense can be stopped. Maybe let them go up by a couple points and then see if you can get the Dolphins at a better number live and see if you can get Tua in comeback mode again. But I don't know. If it gets to 7, I'm going to have to bet the Dolphins. I'll say that.
Yes.
Props for you in this one?
Yeah, we'll see where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle come out, because I'll definitely be looking at them. We're probably not getting a discount on Tyreek like we got last week, but I think in this type of matchup, the Bills are going to put some type of points up. So I think it's a safe bet that the Miami's going to have to be passing a lot throughout this game, and they can't run the ball. Miami still can't run the ball, so all their damage is going to have to be done through the air. The Bills are also a pass-heavy team, so I think there's going to be a lot of possessions in this game and a lot of points flying around. So I think it's a safe bet to anything in the – I'd probably take Tyreek Hill like anywhere 80.5 or lower. I'd go over, maybe even a little higher.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah, we'll see where he opens. Curious where Steph Diggs opens to after his first 2 big weeks. So, yeah, I think the receivers could be interesting here. You definitely don't want to look at any of the running backs. So. All right, moving right along here. Let's go down to the NFC South. Saints and the Panthers. Panthers are 3-point home dogs. Over-under is 40.5. This is one where we bet the under on the openers. Alvin Kamara sounds like he's going to be back this week. He was at practice today. Jameis Winston still has that fractured back or whatever they're referring to it, but I think that he is still going to play. Don't have any injury notes on the Panthers other than to say that Ben McAdoo is still a moron, and Baker Mayfield apparently is as bad, if not worse than Sam Darnold at this point. Christian McCaffrey, 6.8 yards per carry last week, and somehow only saw the ball 15 times. And this is also the second week in a row that he has less than 20 touches. I mean, at this point, you could almost give me any line under the sun, and I couldn't touch the Panthers. I don't know what to do with this team. The Saints offense hasn't looked much better, but I mean, this Panthers team is so poorly coached, such a waste of talent. What are you doing here? You have any bets on this one?
Yeah, the spot, the number, everything tell me to take the Panthers here, but it's a complete stay away for me. Baker's just terrible. 53% completion percentage through the first 2 weeks. DJ Moore only has 6 receptions.
Disgusting.
McCaffrey only has 10 targets through 2 weeks. Like you said, just the combination of Matt Rule and Ben McAdoo is that and Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, like 2 worst. What do we do? Like those guys, they're just in a class of their own, below the rest of the league. And
at least the Patriots have Belichick there to do something. I mean, the Panthers have no one to step in here and talk some sense into these morons.
Yeah, and the Saints, I gotta imagine his back injury, playing with a fractured back one way or another. I gotta imagine it affects Jameis one way or the other. And my worry every week with this Saints team is like what I said last week when we were debating about the Bucs, is if you get this team in a situation where Winston's got to throw 35 plus times like he did last week, we saw kind of what everyone thinks Jameis Winston is. He turned the ball over 3 times. So I just don't trust either side here. I trust the defenses more than the offenses. So I think the under was a great play. But now this is kind of getting towards that range where I have 2 very mistake-prone quarterbacks that I'm a little weary of taking the under at this point. So right now, this game's a complete pass for me.
Yeah, to be fair to Jameis, I will say he did look – I mean, there was parts of the game in week 1 against the Falcons where he looked brutal, but for the most part, I think he looked okay in week 1. Last week, I think the Bucs may have just had the best defense in the league. Like, I don't want to take too much just from that performance because that was just a brutal matchup. Yeah, I just can't bet the Panthers here. There's just no way.
I was given a stat before I came on here from one of my friends. Under Matt Rule, when the Panthers allow 17 or more points, they are 1-24.
Oh, is that all? Just 1-24?
Yeah. So not good.
All right. So get the 17 points, Saints, and you should be good to go.
Yes.
Prop looks for you in this one?
So I think Chris Olave is a good long shot SGP candidate.
Yes.
I don't know about his straight up yards, but he leads the league in air yards and unrealized air yards. So I think he's just a great big play candidate, a guy you could put in an SGP for 100 yards and a touchdown, something like that. So I think capitalizing on those deep targets he's getting, because they have Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry for the possession, close to the line of scrimmage type guy. So Olave's pretty much getting all the deep targets in this offense. So it's naturally him and Winston are going to connect on some of these. So I think he's a pretty good look there on a week-to-week basis.
Love that. Yeah,
maybe like a longest reception over. You could do something like that too.
Might get that mid-20s, I would think.
Yeah,
it's a good call. Only other one I had was Jameis Winston under rush yards. I think last week they posted a line like 9.5 or something. Pretty simple logic. I mean, if I had a fractured back, I probably wouldn't be trying to run and take too many hits. So only 1 carry for 2 yards last week. So I'll take Jameis under rush yards again if we get that.
Yeah.
All right. Next game up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are around 6-point home underdogs. The over-under here is 50.5. Bunch of injuries here on the Indianapolis side. Michael Pittman, Shaq Leonard, whatever his name is, Alec Pierce, all questionable. Pittman was back at practice today, so it does sound like he's trending towards playing. I don't know how close Leonard is to suiting up here. So I think you're probably going to get Pittman, probably not going to get Leonard, but we'll see. Chiefs obviously coming into the game 2-0. Colts are 0-1-1. What do you have here on this matchup? What do you got?
So you and I both bet the Chiefs last week at -3. Obviously,
was this your look ahead of the week?
No, it was actually the Ravens, but so that one didn't pan out too much. But I think you may have mentioned in passing this game. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I think we talked about this one at some point.
Or we talked about after. I can't remember. But regardless, at the current number, man, it's another one where everything kind of points to the Colts. But if Michael Pittman's out, I don't know how you can back this Colts team. They just have, and Alec Pierce. So they just have nothing. No one for Matt Ryan to throw to. And Matt Ryan just looks like a disaster. So I don't see how the Colts keep pace here. And it's when Michael Pittman's out, it's pretty easy for defenses to just kind of scheme out Jonathan Taylor and stack the box and say,
there's nothing left.
Yeah, there's just nothing there. I mean, go ahead and beat us with Mo Alley Cox and see what you can do. I don't really know what else this Colts team has. And then you're also, like you said, you could be missing your best defensive player in Shaquille O'Neal Leonard. So yeah, it's a pass for me at the current number because just the spot and the Colts kind of have their back against the wall here. It is a lot of points and it's a lot of line movement from where the open was at. So, but man, if I had to bet it now, I might even lean the Chiefs at the 6.5, but I don't know that I could get there to play it.
Yeah, I think this one's tough. I think if you like the Chiefs, so their team total is a little bit lower than I thought. I might just play their team total over. You can get a 27.5 right now on
Really?
FanDuel.
It's that low?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was thinking it was going to be 30.5, kind of where it's been hanging out all year. So I think that might be a good way to back the Chiefs here. Gus Bradley, the king of cover 3 himself, and Patrick Mahomes' over the last 2 seasons.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot he's their defensive coordinator. Yeah.
Listen to his stats over the last 2 years against Gus Bradley's defenses. He averages 322 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the Chiefs score an average of 37.3 points per game. So that's over 27.5 last time I checked. So I think that's a good bet here. And like you said, Matt Ryan's really been struggling. Currently ranks 29th among all starting quarterbacks in EPA and QBR. So maybe once Pittman's ruled in, you may even see this line dip down a little bit. So I think Colts team total over is probably the play here.
If you can hold out and maybe, like you said, if Pittman's in and this line dips below 6, I think the Chiefs could be a good play there. And every time the Chiefs go against the Gus Bradley defense, you're like, oh, he's gonna change something. He's gonna do something different. And it's the same thing every time. Twice against the Raiders last year, Mahomes lit them up. It's unbelievable. This guy is just that stubborn and won't change a damn thing when he plays against.
It's unbelievable. People keep hiring him as defensive coordinator. The guy's not a good defensive coordinator. I don't know what they're thinking.
If you see the Chiefs on your schedule, do not hire Gus Bradley as your defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that team total play over 27.5. That's definitely lower than I expected.
All right, I'm betting it right now before I forget. Would you like to guess how your boy Marquez Valdez-Scantling fared in week 2?
What do we got?
Let's see what he had. Oh, he only went under his prop line by about 30 yards. I think he finished with 13 yards. So he's well on his way to the mid 60s where you project.
He's got to get comfortable in the offense. He's give him a few more weeks.
For what it's worth, I do think if there was ever a week where Marquez Valdez-Scantling was going to hit a long bomb, it was against the Gus Bradley defense. So maybe this is the week for the long shot SGP.
Maybe.
Props for me in this one. If we do get Michael Pittman playing, his line is currently posted at 62.5. Obviously, there's some risk with the injury. We don't know what his status is going to be, but if you have a fully healthy Michael Pittman and you're telling me it's 62.5, I'm betting the over all day long. Is it worth it with the added risk? It's tough.
No,
you don't think so?
No, those type of injuries, when you start messing with like the leg muscles, the quad, the hamstring, that's enough to keep me away because it just takes one wrong step and you're out for the game. It's not worth the risk from a prop standpoint, in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Any other looks for you in this one? That was the only note I had.
No, I don't have no props here.
All right, let's go up to the NFC North. The Detroit Lions taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are -6 at home here. Over under, I believe, has been bet up to 53.5. I think this is the highest total on the board. Obviously, the Lions defense has not been good, and we know the Vikings have some weapons on offense. Lions may be getting some reinforcements coming on the offensive line. I know center Frank Ragnow is back at practice today. Vikings coming off the Monday Night Football loss, so a bit of a short week, but they are at home here. What do you have on this one, Lions versus your Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, I was waiting for this to dip below 6, and it did it earlier today. You might still be able to get some 5.
Yeah, you can get a 5.5 on FanDuel right now.
So I took the Vikings at 5.5, and this is just when you buy this Vikings team and Kirk Cousins. And to quote a text from Dave, friend of the show, earlier, this feels like a prime Kirk Cousins spot when the entire world thinks he's trash, and that is correct. This is when you buy into this Vikings team. Sometimes it's not your night. Monday night wasn't their night. The look-ahead line on this game was 7.5. So, maybe it was maybe you adjust them down a little bit after that game, but 5.5, you're getting it below 6 here. I think that is just a great spot here. I think this Lions defense, they can't stop a nosebleed, and they have nobody that can stick with Justin Jefferson. We got to give the Eagles some credit for what they did. I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be one of the better defenses in the NFL. And I know the Lions put up points on them. But outside the opening drive, a lot of those points came when the Eagles were kind of backed off in the second half, maybe not going full throttle on defense. So I just think, for me, I believe in this Vikings team, as everyone knows. So this is a number that I just have to take every time. So I love the Vikings here. This is one of my favorite spots on the board. I think it's a great buy low spot and sell high spot because everyone loves this Lions team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you make some really good points here. I did grab the Lions on the look-ahead line at +7.5, so I'm not going to come back and play the other side. If I didn't have that bet in, I'd probably be leaning Vikings here. The concern is that, the Lions offense has looked really, really good. They played the Eagles and the Commanders, two pretty decent defenses, especially what we saw from Philly.
Commanders defense sucks.
Okay, the Commanders' defense sucks. Okay, fine. The Eagles' defense, I think, is going to be decent, though. But I do think there's serious potential here that this Lions offense could be a top 10 unit in the league. They look awesome. DeAndre Swift barely even played last week and was still an absolute game breaker. Amon-Ra St. Brown cannot be covered right now. So the risk you run here is obviously kind of what we saw in week 1 against the Eagles. The Vikings get a lead. Maybe they're even in control of the game. This Lions team in backdoor cover the spread at the end of the game potential. There's not many better teams that I won in that position in the entire league. So it is a big number here. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if you saw the Lions come in the back door and lose the game by 3 or 4 at the end. So I think that's the risk that you run here. Would you consider taking a Vikings first half, or are you not really worried about the back door? You think the Vikings will have it in the bag and you don't really worry about that?
I think you're always worried about the back door when you play against the Lions. So I can't say I'm not concerned about it. If you're concerned to the point where you don't want to lay the points, I think you look at a Vikings team total, which I think might have been around 20.
Gotta be 28.5, 29.
I can check FanDuel here to see what the latest line is.
30.5.
Oh, 30.5.
That's
okay. Steep. Yeah, that's pretty steep. All right. So maybe you don't look that. Maybe you just lay the points and toughen up.
There we go. There's some good advice. All right. Prop looks for you in this one, Mr. Tough Guy.
Yeah, I took Justin Jefferson. I came in and I said, if anything under 100 yards, I'll take it. So he opened up at 95.5. I think he absolutely feasts on this Lions secondary that let up 150 yards to A.J. Brown in week 1. And last week, they allowed 75 plus yards to both Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, and also let up 59 yards to Jahan Dotson in the same game. So Justin Jefferson over 95.5 yards.
All right, I have 2 plays here. I like Adam Thielen under 50.5 receiving yards. Pretty scary against the Lions secondary, but he really hasn't been involved in this offense much at all. 3 for 32 in week 1 against the Packers. Went 4 for 52 against the Eagles last week, but a lot of literally all 52 of those yards came in the final 2 drives of the game when it was essentially garbage time, and Kirk Cousins finally decided to stop throwing at Darius Slay. So I really just don't think Thielen's involved in this offense. Jefferson is like the first, second, and third read on every play. Big Irv Smith finally got some healthy snaps last week, so I think he's going to be in there more. And they got to get Dalvin Cook going. He really hasn't been himself so far this year. So I think Thielen's a good bet to go under. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god himself. My God, you can't set the line high enough. Over 69.5, absolutely smashing every single week. 12 targets in each of the first 2 games. The Lions are probably going to be in comeback mode, needing to throw the ball, like we said. Amon-Ra St. Brown till I die.
Okay. So I'm looking at props here, and just to go back to another game, we have Tyreek Hill opened at 72.5 yards. I like that.
Whoa, that's low.
Very much. Steph Diggs is at 79.5 yards. I also like that.
Not high enough. What did Waddle open at? Like 68?
Waddle is at 63.5 yards.
That's too low.
So I don't know if we just go ahead and
bet all of them?
Bet all 3 of these overs.
I mean, geez, that's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Bing, bang, boom, over.
All right.
Them all.
Remind me to do that when we get off here.
All right, I'm doing it right now. All right, moving right along here. We will get to our next game. In the NFC East, we have my Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington. Yeah, you're a Vikings fan. Now you don't count. Against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are 6.5 point home dogs. Over under is down to 47.5. This one did drop a bit from the look ahead lines. First game of NFC East divisional play this season. Always love seeing Carson Wentz in an opposing uniform as an Eagles fan. Chase Young sounds like he's still going to be out for the Commanders for a little bit. Don't think there's any injuries on the Eagles side of the ball here. It does look like the Eagles hype train has officially left the station. So this one was -3 on the look aheads. I think this is one that we actually mentioned last week as well. I know I grabbed the Eagles at -3 and again at 3.5. So I'm sitting pretty here at 6.5. I think it's kind of tough to make a case. I feel like if it got to 7, you'd probably have to bet the footballs. I don't think I would touch them now. Where are you at on this one? Do you have a play on this?
Yeah,
Oh no, I can tell already.
I think the footballs win this game. I really think the footballs win this game.
And based on what?
Well, I just think this line to me is outrageous. 6.5 points is crazy to me. I think this is 2 points too high. I'm going to hold out because I think the Eagles are becoming a very public team. So I think
you can't find the person on earth that doesn't want to bet on the Eagles.
That's what I'm saying. So I think if we get a 7 here, you have to take the Commanders here.
You're probably right.
And look, I know it's not a big travel spot, but you're on a short week. The Eagles are going to be on their high horse all week, thinking everyone's telling the Eagles how great they are right now, and they're probably feeling awesome. And I think Washington's shown they can be a competitive team that's going to fight. And
they're so competitive they couldn't even cover against the Lions. Give me a break.
I'm just saying, man, it's still early in the season here. The Eagles, the Lions almost came back and won in week 1. And look, and I want to.
No, they didn't. They were never going to win that game.
And I just want to say, Monday night against the Vikings, great performance from the Eagles. A dropped Irv Smith touchdown that ended up being a 10-point swing in that game. That is a completely different game if Irv Smith catches that pass. It just is. The entire complexity of that game changed. So we could be looking at something completely different here. Kirk Cousins.
The over might have hit. That's the complexity.
That was a disappointing one. But I just think this is a prime letdown spot for this Eagles team. That's really
it's in division. I don't know if this is the letdown spot.
Exactly. So I really think this is a scary game for the Eagles. I would not even consider laying 6.5 points with this team in this game right now. So I'll settle for the 6.5 if we don't get a 7. But I really think this is one you can wait until Sunday morning to see if you can get a 7 for the footballs.
I don't want to bet the footballs. Gosh. I don't know, man. Jalen Hurts looked really good. If he's going to be able to move the ball through the air and Miles Sanders is a beast on the ground, the Eagles are going to control the line of scrimmage. Maybe they're just better.
The better team doesn't always win. It's football.
They win more often than
That's
not.
what I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't know about this. I don't want it to get to 7. I don't want to have to bet the footballs. All right, props for you in this one.
Yeah, I'll be looking at AJ Brown. I think he had a down game on Monday. He was being double covered a lot of the night. Washington just got absolutely torched by Amon-Ra St. Brown. They also let up 100+ yards to Christian Kirk in week 1, so I think it'd be a good game for AJ Brown.
All right, let me see if we have a line on this real quick. I don't think we have props.
I just
for
checked.
This. Okay, all right. So I'm going to be definitely looking at Miles Sanders rush yards. Booby Miles. I mean, this guy just keeps getting lined in the 50s every single week, and just it's absolutely criminal. I feel like I've bet Miles Sanders over rush yards for like every week for the last year and a half. Like it for some reason, it never makes the prop sheet. No one ever talks about it. He's just a monster. He runs. He's awesome. 96 yards in week 1, 80 yards in week 2. Washington allowed 18 for 131 to Miles Sanders in the game last season, and they just allowed over 100 yards on the ground to both the Jaguars and Lions, who were not particularly good running games. So I think Miles Sanders is in for another big game. And then in the football's passing game, right back to Curtis Samuel, over 4.5 receptions if we get that line. I think it was actually 3.5 last week, wasn't it?
I don't remember now. I think you're right, though.
It was really low. I'm pretty sure it was 3.5 for some reason, but he was 15 catches through 2 weeks. These are very low ADOT targets, so they're very high percentage catch rates. And then I might actually look at a Terry McLaurin under 5.5 receptions if we get that line. Only 4 targets in week 1, 5 in week 2. More target competition than any point in his career. Dotson, Samuel, McKissick, Logan Thomas, all involved in this offense. Should see a ton of Darius Slay, who just did an excellent job covering Justin Jefferson. So I think a Terry McLaurin under receptions here is a good look as well. He's being used more down the field in these higher ADOT, lower completion percentage targets.
Curtis Samuel was at 3.5 last
week. Free money. Give me it again. 4.5. I'll take it.
Yep.
All right. Ready to move on here?
Yep.
All right. Rue, I don't know about you, but what I think about a team that I want to bet on, a team that I am running to the window to place my hard-earned money on, I think of a 0-2 Las Vegas Raiders against the 0-2 Tennessee Titans, which is going to be our debate of the week. We just couldn't wait to break down these two teams. Titans are 2-point home underdogs right now. The over-under is 46.5. Only injury note I have is Taylor Lewan. The Titans tackle is going to be questionable. He left the game against the Bills and did not return. Tell us why you are on the 0-2 Las Vegas Raiders as road favorites against the Tennessee Titans.
What's the current line right now? What are we debating it? 2.5?
Let's see. I believe it is 2 across the board. It's 1.5 on FanDuel. We can do 1.5.
All right. So I actually bet Raiders money line at -120, but -2. I'm fine with that. And again, this isn't my most confident play of the week, but I just think what this boils down to for me is the way to attack this Raiders team is through the air. And the Titans can't do it. Ryan Tannehill is an absolute disaster. And this Titans offensive line is just a serious issue for Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry, I don't think Henry looks as great. It's only 2 weeks in. But you also had Taylor Lewan go down again for the 15th time in his career on Monday night. What did Henry end the game with? Last time I checked, I was at the Eagles game.
15 yards or something.
15 total yards.
Yeah.
And that running game is so important to this Titans offense. We've talked about it in the past that this running game is what sets up the passing game. So there's no play action passing game that you're throwing to Robert Woods and a rookie Treylon Burks on the outside. The Titans have just been crushed by big plays through the first 2 weeks. So I think that's a huge advantage from the Raiders standpoint. And I understand that wanting to back the Titans here, underdog at home, Mike Vrabel, it's a good buy low spot. But I just look at these two teams, and I think the Raiders, top to bottom, have a better roster. I'm not out on Josh McDaniels. I think they laid down too quickly last week.
Not out on him. He sucks. They're literally beating themselves 2 weeks in a row.
They weren't able to put the games away. But this is another
That's kind of important when you're laying points.
It is. But again, here's what I look at. I look at this Titans team. If I have a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, am I worried about Ryan Tannehill charging down the field twice to put up 14 points
you're worried.
and cover a 2-point spread? Not even in
They're not going to get a 14-point lead.
They absolutely could get a 14-point lead. They just got absolutely lit up by Steph Diggs. You think they're going to be able to cover Devontae Adams? No shot.
Maybe if he gets 2 targets again, they will. Derek Carr didn't even look at him last week.
No shot. I'll take the Raiders here happily.
No, for me, this all comes down to coaching. Mike Vrabel's going to get this team going. I know they've looked brutal the last 2 weeks, but they should have beat the Giants in week 1. Randy Bullock made a very easily makeable field goal. We'd feel a lot different about this team. Yes, they got trucked by the Bills. Okay, the Bills are in a class of their own. I don't want to say I'm throwing out the game, but look, the Bills you just couldn't stop them in that game. So I think this is a much better matchup here. The Raiders defense is more apt to rush the passer than they are to stop the run. So I think Derrick Henry can get going here a little bit. I will admit that I accidentally wrote down the Titans' poor run defense stats when I was trying to make a case against the Titans.
Perfect. Let's hear them.
I was going to say Saquon obliterated them for 18 carries and 164 yards, forgetting that I bet the Titans.
Okay, and what else? What happened last week? What else we got?
But I do like the progression of Treylon Burks, 3 for 55 last week, 4 for 47 in week 1. I think they're going to need him to step up.
Progression is that 3 for 55? We're calling that progression
on this offense. That's a lot of receiving yards. They don't throw for that many. Here? That led the team. So
this guy's 90 combined yards in 2 weeks, and we're calling it progression.
And he's the number 1 receiver. I mean, that's good for this offense.
I can't believe that was just used as a case to bet the Titans.
Treylon Burks with 50% of the receiving yards on the team. I'll stick with that.
He doesn't have 100 yards. Exactly. It's unbelievable.
No, I think this line should be a pick. If I think any of the Titans plus any points in this low scoring game, give me the Titans.
Look, oh man, I'm shaking now. Treylon Burks is going to progress to 60 yards this week. Oh, man, what was I thinking?
This offense would love to get a receiver with 60 yards because Robert Woods ain't happening. Props for me. I do think if you're on the Titans, you got to look at Derrick Henry over rush yards. I think this is like low to mid 80s. You bet him over last week against the Bills.
I didn't bet Henry. I did not bet Henry over last week.
Okay, well, on the podcast, I'm pretty sure you said you were going
I mentioned it. It doesn't mean I bet it. I don't bet.
Even mentioning it was disgusting.
I was going to ask you at what point do we start taking his unders?
Not this week. Do you have any props on this one?
Oh, yeah. Boy, do I. Okay. Are you kidding me with Devontae Adams at 77.5 yards? What did Steph Diggs end up with? I love 150 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, about that.
Week 1, Devontae Adams saw 17 targets and 10 catches for 141. Week 2 saw 7 targets, still not the best. Down week. Buy low spot. This was in what, 90?
The Cardinals have the worst secondary in the league. You can't just dismiss that. He played like crap in an overtime game. He got like 2 catches.
Okay, but does one game warrant a 16-yard discount? I think this was at 93.5 last week. We're getting below 70 or below 80 against a secondary that just allowed a number 1 receiver to put up 150 yards. I absolutely love Devontae Adams for a big game here.
Okay. I don't mind it.
Probably my favorite prop I've seen so far this week. And Hunter Renfrow in concussion protocol, so he could be out.
Yeah, he also can't hold on to a ball to save his life.
Yes, he also cannot hold on.
Bum. I'm going to be looking at Josh Jacobs under receptions. I think I played this the last 2 weeks. His line was at 2.5. He had 1 catch for 16 yards and then 1 catch for 12 yards. Only played 59% of the snaps last week. I'm not really sure why he keeps being lined at 2.5. He's not used in the passing game. They have Amir Abdullah and Zamir White, so give me Jacobs under. Moving right along here. Houston Texans against the Chicago Bears, another barn burner of a game that we're expecting here. The Bears are 2.5. There may still be some 3s out there, but they're going to be the home favorite here. Total has been bet up to 40.5. This is a Lovie Smith revenge game as he returns to Chicago, and a pivotal game for our Bears season win total under bets. We are going to need the Texans to come through, and gosh darn it, I think they're going to. Texans +3, Texans money line. I talked about this one like 8 weeks ago in our offseason pods. all over it. The Bears cannot be favored by 3 points over another NFL team. I'm not even convinced they should be 3-point favorites over some of the top college teams at this point. The Texans, their offense hasn't looked as good as I thought they could, but they've been scrappy. They tied the Colts. They were in the game the whole week last week against the Broncos. Their defense played pretty well. Justin Fields is probably going to have like 4 pass attempts in the whole game. So you stop David Montgomery, you stop the Bears offense. Texans take this one.
Yeah, I like it, and I don't know what's holding me back from betting the Texans, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
What?
I kind of like you said, this is such a huge spot for our Bears under tickets. I have a ton on the Bears under.
Already like you have a bet.
So it feels like I kind of already have a bet on the Texans. That's not really I don't know what's scaring me off. And I haven't been able to come up with a valid point of why not to bet the Texans. I'm getting 3 points.
It's hard to find good things to say about the Texans. So,
but I think I'm going to sit this one out and stick with my Bears season win total under.
That's disappointing.
It is disappointing. I'm disappointed in myself.
Okay, but just you would never bet the Bears here, correct?
No, I'm not laying points with the Bears.
So if you are out there and you do want to bet this game, it has to be the Texans or nothing.
No. I don't know anyone could lay 3 points with the Bears.
Would
with
you
either of these teams.
Yeah, if the Texans were favored by 3 points, I'd probably be making the same case for the Bears.
Yeah.
Would you think about an under here that now that it is over 40, it's been bet up to 40.5?
I don't know, because I feel like there's a world where these, like, I could see the Texans. There was games last year, like you said, the Texans offense hasn't looked as good as we expect. I think we thought we'd see a little bit more.
Yeah.
If there was a secondary to do it against, it's this Bears secondary. It wouldn't shock me if the Texans scored 24 point, like a 24-17 type game here wouldn't shock me. Let's put it that way.
It's always tough when you get like bad offense versus bad defense on both sides of the ball. Like I don't know who's gonna win. Like they're both bad.
And then the Bears should have had 17 points against the Packers last week. Justin Fields was in on that one quarterback.
No, he was not.
So he was absolutely
my team total under bet said he was not in.
All right. Well, regardless, they were able to run the ball and move up and down the field a couple times. So I think there's a world where this game goes over. So I wouldn't touch the total.
This might be one of my favorite games from a prop perspective. What do you have on this one? I have a bunch.
So Brandon Cooks for sure. I think his line opened at 59.5, which just way too low. He's getting peppered with targets. He saw 10 last week. He only came up with 4 catches, 54 yards. Week 1, 12 targets, 7 for 82. Like I said, this secondary, extremely beatable. We know he has a connection with Davis Mills. He's going to be getting double-digit targets every week. So his yards at 59.5, I'd play this up to 65.5, and I'll look for receptions at 5.5 as well.
So the receptions actually opened at 4.5. It is minus 165 to the over, but I don't think I've ever seen Brandon Cooks below 5.5 since Davis Mills took over.
Yeah, that's worth a bet. I'll lay the juice for that.
Right,
I think he's averaging, I believe last year, and based on stats history, he's still averaging over 6 catches per game with Davis Mills quarterback. So
yeah, and like you said, last week didn't have a ton of production, but the targets were still there.
Yeah, the targets are there. That's all you need.
All right, for me in this one, definitely going to be looking at Rex Burkhead unders if we get that again. Great call by you last week. Only played 36% of the snaps, saw 0 carries. Dameon Pierce took over 15 for 69, looked pretty solid in that role. So Burkhead is the pass catching back. So if we get a line even in the 20s for rush yards for him, I'll take the under. Justin Fields under everything. I took the under 182.5 passing yards. Also going to be looking at passing attempts. He has 15 completions and 191 total yards through 2 weeks of the season, and you're basically getting that line in 1 week to take an under on. Correlate that with Darnell Mooney under 46.5 receiving yards and under 3.5 receptions at plus 110. Only 5 targets, 2 catches, and 4 total receiving yards through 2 games. Like we said, this Bears passing offense is completely non-existent, and he should see a lot of the Texans' only solid cornerback rookie Derek Stingley out of LSU.
I like it.
And my God, if we get a Cole Kmet line of half a receiving yard, I'll take the under just because I hate that guy. All right, let's move right along here to the Bengals and the Jets. The Jets are around 5-point home underdogs. Over under here is 45.5. Bengals, obviously a very disappointing start to the season. They are 0-2, with the Jets coming off a big win over the Browns. CJ Uzama, the former Bengal, now Jet, is going to be questionable for this one. Still going to be Joe Flacco at quarterback. No Zach Wilson yet. What do you have here on this one, Bengals and Jets?
Give me every bit of the Bengals in this We're going back to the
baby.
well one more time here. This might be the ultimate buy low spot on the board here. We talked about how bad this Bengals offensive line is. I don't think the Jets have a good enough defensive line to take advantage of it. That's really what this boils down to. You look at the first two matchups of the Bengals season. They face the Steelers, which arguably have the best defensive line. TJ Watt was still healthy at that time, obviously. And then you then go against the Cowboys, who have some pretty vicious pass rushers there as well. So I just don't think the Jets have that type of firepower on the defensive line. That's really all it comes down to for me, is that if you give Joe Burrow time with these weapons, he's going to be able to make something happen on offense. And I think last week, the Jets offense, they're not putting up 30 points again with Joe Flacco. It's not happening. They had their fun against the Browns. They had their comeback win, but I think this is the game. And the Bengals, the big revenge spot, they lost to this team last year with Mike White at quarterback. So you can't tell me that's not in the back of their mind too. So I think you got to go back to the well one more time with the Bengals here. This is a great spot. I think you're getting 2-3 points of a discount here on this line.
Yeah, totally with you here. I'm jumping right back on the Bengals. I know I said I expected a big offensive performance from them last week. I think we were just a week early, but I totally agree with all the points you said. It's a buy low on the Bengals and a sell high on the Jets because they really shouldn't have won that game last week. Like you said, the Jets defensive line ranks bottom 10 in line yards, bottom 10 in sack rate, only 3 sacks on the season so far. One good quarterback and rookie Sauce Gardner. But outside of that, you're going to have someone with a matchup advantage when you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd out there. You give Joe Burrow time to throw, he's going to find them. And I think Joe Flacco turns back into the Joe Flacco we know and love instead of Joe Montana or whatever the heck he was doing last week. So Bengals drop 30 this week. Bengals cover the spread. Perfect buy low spot.
Yes.
Props for you in this one.
Nothing yet.
All right, I'm going to be looking at Michael Carter over 2.5 receptions. Again, if we get that line, we were all over that last week, came through. It's another game that we expect the Jets to be down, probably going to need to be throwing a lot in the second half, and him and Breece Hall have been getting targets out of the backfield. Not as many as week one, but I still think if it's at 2.5, it's worth an over. Then I also bet T. Higgins over 66.5 receiving yards. Left early in week one with a concussion, but led the team in all receiving categories in week two, finished 6 for 71 and 1 on 10 targets. So I think a big game for T. Higgins coming here while Jamar Chase is lined about 12 yards higher. So I'll take the discount on Higgins.
All right.
Let's keep on moving here. Jaguars and the Chargers. First game of the 4:00 slate. LA Chargers are laying 7 points here at home. The over-under is 47.5. The big question in this game is, will Justin Herbert play with his rib injury? He was practicing today in a limited fashion. It sounds like he's trending towards playing. This is more of a pain tolerance thing. Keenan Allen, his status is also completely unknown. I don't think he practiced today, so I think he's probably on the wrong side of questionable. But if you get Herbert here, that's obviously the big one. What do you have? Do you have a play on this one? Is this a wait and see to kind of see where the line moves once Herbert's announced in, or what do you got on this?
So I took a small piece of the Jags at the open just with the unknowns with Herbert. And then today I went full go on the Jags. I think it's a good number at 7. I think even if Herbert plays, you can't tell me that a broken, whatever the hell it is, cartilage, whatever they're calling it, whatever, rib injury isn't going to affect this guy throwing the ball. And I think you're going to see a dumbed down version of this offense with they're not going to have Herbert sitting in the pocket looking downfield. I think you're going to see a lot of quick passes. I think this Jags defense has performed well over the first couple of weeks. They looked great last week, obviously shut out the Colts. So I really like what I'm seeing from this Jags team. It's all about really, I think this Jags team can compete with these types of teams. It's just about limiting those mistakes, limiting these dumb plays by Trevor Lawrence. And week one, we had some bad drops from ETN. And just, I think if they limit these mistakes, they can be in this game with the Chargers. And I think this injury with Herbert's enough to scare me off from taking any piece of the Chargers here.
I think I agree. I haven't pulled the trigger yet on the Jaguars, but I think right now it's probably Jaguars or pass. Do you think there's a chance that if Herbert is officially announced in, let's say like Friday afternoon or whatever, do you think there's a chance we could ever get 7.5?
Maybe. I could see it. I think you get Herbert ruled in, and then maybe people start throwing the Chargers in some teasers and ends up driving the line up a half a point. I could see it. Yeah.
I would not tease this game. Even if it went to 7.5, I think the Jaguars can win.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. And even with Herbert at full strength, I'd be taking a strong look at the Jaguars here at 7 or more. So the Herbert injury is just kind of icing on the cake for me here. I'm really growing more and more on this Jags team.
Yeah. I think you're right. This one has to be Jaguars or pass. I will probably end up with the Jaguars ticket. I'm going to see if I can get 7.5, but if not, I don't think 7's a bad number. I do think it's a tough matchup. Like Christian Kirk's going to have a lot tougher of a matchup against J.C. Jackson and Asante Samuel. I think they're going to need to get the running game going, but I think James Robinson has looked good enough for me to feel comfortable with them being able to do that. So yeah, I think it's going to be Jaguars or pass here.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We all know you can run on this Chargers defense. So if you can get a run game going with Robinson and Etienne and take some pressure off Trevor Lawrence, all the better here. So yeah, I actually do like the Jags a lot in the matchup as well.
Yeah, I think Robinson's rush yards actually opened at like 49.5. I think I'm talking myself into that as we're discussing this one. I think I'm going to like that one.
All right, I like it.
Any props for you?
No, I at the open, Christian Kirk's yards definitely there wasn't. I feel like there wasn't a big enough adjustment, but like you said, the matchup with J.C. Jackson and Asante Samuel is obviously a tougher one, and I do think the Jags try and control this game on the ground. So nothing. So yeah, like you said, the James Robinson one I could definitely get on board with, but
okay,
that's for me yet.
Only other one I have noted, Justin Herbert under rush yards, kind of similar to what we talked about with Jameis. I think Herbert was lined as high as like 14.5 last week. So if we get a number, even 7.5, 8.5, I'll definitely take the under there. Guy playing with rib cartilage issues probably doesn't want to run too much.
Okay.
All right. Moving right along here to a game with multiple birds. So Atlanta Falcons, that's my note here. Atlanta Falcons against the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are 1.5-point home favorites. The over under is 41.5. What do you have here in the Battle of the Birds?
I love the Falcons, and I think the Falcons are a great piece in teasers if at 1.5 up to 7.5. Kind of similar to the Panthers and the Commanders games last week. Which neither one worked out for me, but plus money, getting a plus money underdog on the money line in these types of games where you're getting two bottom 5 teams matched up, especially a divisional game here.
So you're betting the Texans.
What do you mean? No, I'm not betting the Texans.
Doesn't apply to that game.
No.
This is also not a divisional.
But oh, you're right. It's not a divisional game. I was thinking the birds were in the same. You got me with the birds.
We don't have the all birds division yet.
Yeah, so the same type of mascot. Those matchups can be. But honestly, what this comes down to, so you have these two bottom teams, but I honestly think the Falcons are the better team here. So I went into this season, the Seahawks under win total was my first bet of the entire offseason, and I'm still extremely low on them. The Seahawks haven't scored, put any offensive points on the board for 6 straight quarters since the first half.
Oh, is that all?
So, 216 total yards last week for Seattle. Only touchdown was off the block field goal, 253 yards in week 1. So I just think I've seen, like, Marcus Mariota has been encouraging to me. Like, they didn't look great last week, but I like what they're doing with Mariota's legs. I think that's a huge X factor. I like what I saw from Drake London, and I think defensively, the Falcons are a much better defense than the Seahawks team. Like they have some guys on that defense, Grady Jarrett, 2 stud cornerbacks. Seahawks really don't have much here. So, and 6 straight quarters with no offensive points. And look, you look back to week 1. And I just want to clarify, I was on the Seahawks last week. That was more of a bet against Trey Lance as it was me betting.
Yeah, that worked out great. He was in the game for 4 minutes.
Yeah, so that obviously didn't work out well. But week 1, if the Broncos don't fumble twice on the 1-yard line and the Seahawks lose that game, we could be looking at Falcons being favored here. So, I like the Falcons a lot in this, getting them as an underdog here.
Literally, as you said that, the Falcons just moved to a favorite on FanDuel.
Are you kidding me?
Literally, as the words were coming out of your mouth, it shifted to Falcons -1.
All right. That's why you getting early. You already got him in 2 teasers. So,
Yes, I'm totally with you. Love the Falcons money line. I did hear that the Falcons actually stayed out on the West Coast, which I thought was a big plus for this team. So they were out there last week against San Francisco. So don't have to worry about any cross country travel. They're already out there. Like you said, the Seahawks offense, 2 total touchdowns in 2 games with an average of 235 total yards. Their pass defense has been brutal. They ranked 30th in DVOA. Great matchup for Drake London. Kyle Pitts is finally going to get going here. I'll talk about him later on. It's also a good matchup for the Falcons defense. Like you mentioned, they have 2 elite cornerbacks who can shut down DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So the front 7 can really sell out to stop the run. And just to give you a glimpse of what this Seahawks offense has looked like, Travis Homer led the backfield in snaps last week with 22. That is the current state of the Seahawks offense. You have Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker, who you drafted in the 2nd round, and they're giving 22 snaps to Travis Homer, and DJ Dallas even got in there for some fun as well. Absurd.
Yeah. DJ Dallas throws a. What are they doing? They drive the field and then they have DJ Dallas throwing a pass inside the 10-yard line. He throws it right to the defender. I mean, what a disaster! What an absolute disaster!
Yeah, give me all the Falcons here.
We don't trust Geno Smith though. We're gonna throw our 4th-string running back out there to throw a pass in the red zone.
Brilliant, Pete Carroll. Any props for you in this one?
No props for me here.
Nothing for me as of yet. We don't have lines on this one, I don't think, but no real spots I'm looking for. All right, let's go to a matchup that should be a lot of fun. The 2 of the kings of the NFC, the Green Bay Packers, traveling down to Tampa to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucs are 1.5-point home favorites. Over under has dropped all the way down to 41.5. Bunch of injuries here. Chris Godwin is going to be out. Julio Jones questionable. Mike Evans out with a suspension. Akeem Hicks out. Bucs did sign Cole Beasley off the streets, and then Donovan Smith also questionable. Packers offensive line should be mostly healthy at this point. David Bakhtiari, who the heck knows, but obviously a lot of injuries here on the Bucs. I think that's why this spread has trended down a little bit. Is this a spot where you think it's good buy low on the Bucs? Did you take the Packers here? Think that they can take advantage of this weak Bucs team? What do you have on this one?
So I teased the Packers. I think it's a great spot for that. I think we're going to get the Bucs now without possibly their top 3 weapons. I think we're going to see a run-heavy game plan from them. We just watched David Montgomery rush for 120 yards on this defense. And Tom Brady's great, but throwing to what? Rashad Perriman is possibly
Russell Gage.
Russell Gage is even questionable. So we could be
great.
Oh, yeah, who knows? We could go into this game with Perriman and Scotty Miller as the top 2 targets.
Cole Beasley and Scotty Miller. That's a dynamic duo you don't want to go up against.
Yeah, exactly. So we both obviously, like you said, we gave out the under at 45.5. I thought that was a fantastic play. Now it's down to, what did you say it's at?
41.5.
41.5. Yeah, it's hard for me to recommend playing the under here. I think it was a great play at the open. Packers are you watch it, you don't even need to look at the numbers. You watch this offense and every single play they're running the play clock down to 5 or less seconds. They are tops in the league at seconds per play, as in the slowest team in the league. So, and you're getting 2 great defenses here. So I kind of see a similar slugfest type of game that we saw between New Orleans and Tampa Bay last week, except you're not going to have Aaron Rodgers turning the ball over 3 times and leading the Bucs points or anything like that. So I think this is a competitive coin flip type of game that could go either way. So I like teasing the Packers up to 7.5 if you can still get the 1.5s out there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind Packers in a teaser here. I don't have any play on the spread like you. I did like the total under 45.5. Probably wouldn't touch it now. I feel like my read on this Bucs team coming into the season was really spot on. I thought their defense was going to be awesome. Thought their offense was going to take a step back. We've kind of seen that come to play here. And I do like one thing that you said. I think it's going to be a really run-heavy approach. I think Leonard Fournette in the prop market this week is just an absolute smash. His rush yards open up at 66.5. His rush attempts at 15.5 rushing attempts. I don't know which one I love more. I think they're both fantastic. 21 and 24 carries in each of the first 2 games to start the season. And like you said, Packers defense ranks 30th against the run, bottom 10 in adjusted line yards, and was just carved up by David Montgomery. So
carved up by David Montgomery when you knew when they're not passing the ball at all. You knew they were running the ball the whole time. You can literally put 10 guys in the box. You could uncover Darnell Mooney on the outside and they would still run the ball where Justin Fields wouldn't be able to throw to him, and you still can't stop the run. So yeah, I definitely like like Leonard Fournette here.
All right, Big Lenny. You got any other plays on the props that you're gonna be looking at?
Nope.
All right, moving right along here to the NFC West. LA Rams against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are 3.5-point home dogs. The over/under is down to 48.5. Van Jefferson likely still not going to play here for the Rams, and then James Conner should be back for the Cardinals. Doesn't sound like Rondale Moore will be, but I'm expecting Conner to play here. Disappointing start for both teams to start the season. They did get back on track a little bit last week, but the Rams almost gave away the game to the Falcons at the end there. They were 20 yards away from scoring and winning the game. The Cardinals somehow saved their season last week with a comeback, but I still think this is a pretty fraudulent team. So I think this is going to be another one that's Rams or pass. I'm hoping we get a -3. I think that would be an automatic buy for me, but if not, I do think the Rams -3.5 is still a good bet here. Are you on the Rams as well here?
Yeah, I love the Rams here. This is similar. This is just another buy low spot for me here. And I really think this Cardinals defense is just brutal. They get no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. You watch these games. I've seen more pressure in 7-on-7 drills than I have from this Cardinals defensive line. They have 1 sack through the first 2 weeks of the season. They're allowing 6.4 yards per play. The offense outside of Kyler making a few miracle plays has just looked dreadful. 7 points through the first 3 quarters of week 1 before they tacked on some garbage time points. 7 points through 3 quarters last week before the Raiders collapsed. I just think Stafford's going to have a clean pocket here and pick this defense apart. So Stafford obviously hasn't looked great. He's turned the ball over a lot the first couple weeks, but week 1, obviously offensive line, a huge issue there. You give any quarterback, let alone Stafford, who's the top 10 quarterback in the league, the amount of time he's going to have with Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson on the outside, I think he's just going to pick this team apart. So I bet the Rams. I actually bet them at 4.5. I got a terrible number here. And I bet their team total at 26.5, which I just absolutely love that number.
Okay. Yeah, I think you make a bunch of really good points. Think the offense is going to have some success. And then, unlike whatever the heck the Raiders were running at the end of the game last week, I think Raheem Morris, he's no stranger to going up against Kyler Murray and his mobility. So I think they'll have a better game plan there. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a good buy low spot on the Rams. Props for you here?
No props.
All right, I think I'm going to be looking at Cooper Kupp receiving yards. I believe this was in the high 90s. He is, literally unguardable at this point, so I think anything double digits is good with me. And then Zach Ertz over, actually 2 more. Zach Ertz over 4.5 receptions, ran a route on 94% of Kyler's dropbacks, 18% target share, 11 targets last week, 8 catches for 75 yards. And then Tyler Higbee also over 4.5 receptions, like that a bit. Continues to dominate targets outside of Cooper Kupp. He's really been the number 2 in this offense ahead of Allen Robinson. 7 for 71 on 9 targets last week, 11 targets in week 1. And the Cardinals allowed big games out of Waller and Kelsey at the tight end position. So like both tight ends over 4.5 catches.
All right.
All right, let's go to Sunday Night Football. San Francisco 49ers against the Denver Broncos. Broncos are 1.5-point home underdogs here. The over-under is at 44.5. Trey Lance is out. Jimmy G is in. George Kittle is questionable. Tyrion Davis-Price is out. And then on the Broncos side, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler are both questionable. Justin Simmons, star safety, is going to be out. And then Patrick Surtain, their cornerback, is also questionable. What do you have here on the Niners and Broncos? Can the Broncos finally wake the heck up and look like a real football team, or is this a good spot to buy Jimmy G?
So I probably would have made this game a pick 'em, so I don't see with the 1.5. There's not a ton of value for me here. I almost want to give Wilson the benefit of the doubt. It's a new system. He didn't play in the preseason. So I just feel like he's too good of a quarterback to look this bad for an extended period of time. So I feel like there's going to be a game where everything just clicks. Now, maybe it's not against the 49ers, who have a pretty solid defense, but it certainly could be. Their secondary obviously has been the weaker point of their defense over the last couple of years. So I love this 49ers team with Jimmy G. We rode them down the stretch of last season. I just don't know that this is the matchup I want to back them in heading up to Denver here. I think the Broncos somewhat, even at a 1-1 record, I feel like they kind of have their backs against the wall here as well.
Yeah.
And Wilson really has something to prove here. So it's a little bit of a scary spot to go against them here. So I think I'm just going to pass this game, but it wouldn't shock me if the 49ers did go up to Denver and win this game.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. I think the spread's probably right where it is now. I unfortunately bet the Broncos at just a god awful number at this time last week. I bet them at minus 2.5. I mean, at the time, Trey Lance was still starting for the Niners. I liked the Seahawks in that game to cover. I thought the Broncos offense was going to wake up against the Texans, and just literally everything has gone wrong. So I have a horrendous bet in here that I hate every time I see it. So I'm just going to ride that out. I do really like the under here. I played under 45.5. I think there's still a couple 45s out there. I think if you can get that, I think that's a good bet here. Unders in general, especially in prime time this season, have just been the bee's knees. These teams ranked 27th and 31st in neutral game pace of play. The Broncos are lucky this point if they can even get a play call in before the freaking play clock expires. The Niners 31st in pass rate over expectation. We know they want to pound the rock and keep the clock running. And on top of that, the Broncos may have the worst red zone offense in the entire league. I mean, the Chicago Bears look good when compared to this Broncos offense in the red zone. So under 45.5 is one of my favorite bets on the board.
Okay.
Props for you here. Are we going back to Cortland Sutton receiving yards for a third week in a row?
Yeah, if we're still going to get a generous number like we did last week, I have no problem going back to. I think the Broncos will have a much tougher time running against this 49ers defense. So I think the damage is going to have to be done through the air here. It's a little scary playing overs in games, like you said, where teams are slower paced because you're obviously limiting the amount of plays and it's not necessarily a shootout type potential game. But what did we get his number at last week? Was it 62 and a half?
I thought it was like 57, 59.
Yeah, I just think he's the clear alpha receiver on the team, and Jerry Jeudy's banged up now. So if Russ wakes up, he had a monster. Cortland Sutton had a monster game last week. He's gone over the first 2 weeks with Wilson looking as bad as he has. So once Wilson starts throwing for up near 300 yards, Cortland Sutton's only going to get better. So I think we got to keep buying him low while we're getting generous lines now. So yeah.
Yep, totally with you there. My favorite one in this one, going to be looking at Jeff Wilson over rush attempts. So the Niners backfield was split pretty evenly in week 2. He played 50% of snaps. Tyrion Davis-Price played 40%, but he's out with a high ankle sprain, so it's going to be Jordan Mason, who's only played special teams so far, doesn't have a carry. They did activate Marlon Mack from the practice squad, but I think multiple teams have kind of told you what point Marlon Mack is at this point in his career. He couldn't even make the Texans roster, so I'm not expecting much from him. Wilson went 18 for 84 last week. We know Debo's going to get a couple carries, but I think Jeff Wilson's a lock for over 20 carries here. In 10 total games last season, when the Niners only had one primary active back, they averaged 18 carries per game. So I think Wilson, should have no problem seeing 20 carries here.
If you're Marlon Mack and you can't get a roster spot when you're competing with Rex Burkhead, what else needs to happen?
I mean, what else do we need to know about this guy?
Like, what else do you need to happen for you to say it's time to hang him up?
That should just be the barometer. Any running back who's not sure, exactly. They just go up against Rex Burkhead.
You send them to the Texans. Yeah, you send them to the Texans to try out. If they don't make the roster and Rex Burkhead's still there,
you're retired.
It's time to retire. Exactly.
All right, that's the new test from now on.
Yes.
All right, let's go over to Monday Night Football, our second NFC East divisional battle this week, the Cowboys and the Giants. This spread has been creeping down all week. The Giants are now -1 at home here. Over under is 39.5. Obviously, it's still going to be Cooper Rush for the Cowboys. Dalton Schultz is also doubtful, and Michael Gallup sounds like he's trending towards making a season debut, but we'll see if that happens or not, and whether he's limited. For the Giants, the receiving core is a mess. Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney are both questionable. Kenny Golladay basically quit football and cleaned out his locker and is now tweeting that he should get more targets. I don't know what's going on. Then on the defensive line, Leonard Williams is going to be out, and Kayvon Thibodeau, I got to imagine he's getting closer, still hasn't played yet, but we'll call him questionable here. What do you have on this one? Basically a pick'em. Cowboys a small dog. Sorry.
This is another one I teased the Cowboys up. I think we're going to get another gross type of game. I love some of these teaser spots on the board here. Yeah. I have to backtrack on something I said last week about the Giants. I said in week 1, I thought their offense looked pretty good, but I went back and watched some of that game, and I kind of take that back. It was really just a few big plays from Saquon. Daniel Jones still doesn't look great, and the offense didn't look great. The Giants, we could easily be sitting here with the Giants 0-2. They
were
probably
horrible last week. They were
Yeah,
gifted 2 fumbles at like the 10-yard line and couldn't score.
Yeah, so they probably you could easily say they're probably the worst looking 2-0 team in the league.
And yet they get the Cowboys and the Bears the next 2 weeks. I mean, could they be the worst 4-0 team in history?
Yeah, so I just think what do we have the total at now? 39.5. So I can tease the Cowboys over 7 or up to 7.5. So I absolutely love that spot. And I think Cooper Rush has shown we saw him play last year and win a game. He obviously beat the Bengals last year. He's a competent enough quarterback. I think Kellen Moore actually does a pretty good job calling the offense when he's in there. And I think the Giants or the Cowboys could have some success running the ball with Zeke and Tony Pollard on the ground. So this is probably going to be a pretty ugly game. So with the low total, I'll take the 7.5 points in the teaser all day.
Yeah, I think I love that teaser option. Even if this flips favorites, I'm fine teasing either of these teams. If you did get a Cowboys -1.5 or something later in the week by game time, I'd have no problem teasing the Giants. So I like teasing either of these teams here. If I did have to make a pick on the spread, I'd probably go Giants just because the numbers dropped a little bit. And I do think Cooper Rush may not look as good as he did last week, but I don't love it.
Okay.
Props for you here?
Nothing.
All right, I have a couple here. Obviously, if we get a line on Kenny Galladay, automatically take the under. That was pretty easy last week. Saquon Barkley rushing attempts may look at that. He's pretty much the whole offense right now, 18 and 21 carries each of the first 2 weeks. And then Sterling Shepard, I'm looking for 4.5 receptions. If we get that, I'll definitely be interested in the over. Played limited snaps week 1, but that was his first action coming off the Achilles injury. Passed the eye test so far. I think he looks fine. Just looks like Sterling Shepard. Team high 10 targets last week, 6 for 34. A lot of these targets are around the line of scrimmage. So Galladay's done. Kadarius Toney isn't practicing. Wan'Dale Robinson's probably not going to play. I mean, by process of elimination, Saquon over, Sterling Shepard over.
All
right. That wraps up our game-by-game breakdown. We will now go to our long shots of the week. Our favorite bet priced at +200 or better. Rue, kick it to you first.
Yeah, so I touched on it. Absolutely love the prop, and I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to go with Davante Adams. I think he has a monster game against this Titans secondary. I'm going to go with 100 yards for Davante Adams, a touchdown, and a win.
Let's have to add the win in there. That's gross.
I probably should have gotten the odds on this, so I'll do that while you're giving yours.
All right, my long shot of the week. We don't have official lines yet, but yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea of where this one's going to come down. I'm going to be taking the Falcons money line, and I'm going to be pairing that with the forgotten man in this offense, Kyle Pitts, 60 receiving yards, and the Falcons money line. Like we talked about, love the Falcons in this game. Think they should be favored. Way more explosiveness in this offense. Drake London is the real deal. And I think they're really going to want to try and get Kyle Pitts going. I know everyone in the fantasy community is freaking out. But look, the Seahawks defense allowed a pretty decent game from Albert O in week 1. They also allowed backup tight end Andrew Beck to have 52 receiving yards last week. Backup tight end for the Niners, Ross Dwelly, even went for a 38-yard touchdown reception. So this is the week Kyle Pitts gets some advantage matchups. He's going to get 60 receiving yards, and the Falcons come out with a win.
All right. The touchdown odds aren't posted yet, so I can't get the odds on mine, but
we'll call it +300-ish.
Sure.
All right.
It might be even better than that.
Okay.
The 100 yards is going to be plus
that's true.
Something else. Yeah. So.
All right. So you're going with Adams, a touchdown, and Raiders money line. All right. Favorite bet of the week.
100 yards, touchdown, and win.
That's what I said.
You didn't say 100 yards.
All right. Check the tape on that one. Good. Your favorite bet of the week is what?
Oh man, I've been bouncing all over the place here, but I think
I
think I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
I think it's one of the best buy low spots on the board. I think Joe Burrow should have more time in the pocket than he's had all season. I think they can. There's a lot of I thinks in here, but they should be able to put up points on this Jets defense. I think the Jets had their fun last week, and they're going to come out here and lay an egg.
Okay. I was also eyeing up the Bengals here. Man, I like the Rams a lot. Do I go Rams or Niners Broncos under? Do you have a
not going to tell you how to spend your money.
I mean, I already bet both of them, but
all right.
Gosh. All right. I'll go with another total. I'm feeling good after last week. I'm going to stay hot on the totals here. Let's go Niners and Broncos. You can still get an under 45 on DraftKings. Like I mentioned, scoring this season has been down quite a bit. I think the average total is down 5 points from what it was last year, especially these games in prime time. These two of the slowest offenses in the league. Red zone inefficiencies, all that. I think this game should be lined closer to 43. So give me the Broncos Niners under as my favorite bet of the week.
All right. Before we get out of here, I did want to mention one more thing. I would like to go into the awards market for a second and talk about the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, in our off-season awards podcast, we gave a ton of reasoning why we thought Aiden Hutchinson, who the favorite at the time, I don't remember, plus 500 or plus 600. We both loved him. He fit the mold of what this award has been. You can go back to that podcast and kind of listen to the criteria. But right now, he's down to plus 200. And I think this is maybe the last chance to get the best value on him here, just to kind of play the landscape of where the odds are at right now. So Aiden Hutchinson's first at plus 200. I'm looking on FanDuel, so odds might be a little different in other books. Second right now is George Karlaftis on the Kansas City Chiefs. He's plus 1,000. Has not registered a sack yet this season.
Might actually be invisible. Did not see him on the field against the Chargers.
Yes.
Like he wasn't there.
So he is number 2 right now in odds for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Aiden Hutchinson has 3 sacks for the season for reference. Third right now is Kayvon Thibodeau, who actually has not played a game.
Literally invisible.
So that alone, you're getting the second and third place guy. One has not registered a sack and the other has not played a game.
Trayvon Walker is the only one that realistically you probably have to worry about on the Jaguars. I think honestly everyone else is basically eliminated from contention at this point.
I think getting plus 200 right now is still great value. If Aiden Hutchinson stays healthy this entire season, I think we said when we were in our podcast, the barometer was kind of like 7 or 8 sacks that you're looking for.
It's almost halfway there.
Yeah, he already has 3 sacks for 2 weeks. So if he stays healthy, I think this is his award to lose. We could easily be looking in week 8 and he's at minus 350 or something to win this award. So if you didn't get on Aiden Hutchinson, or even if you did, I took Aiden Hutchinson in the offseason. I doubled back this week at plus 200 because I think this is going to be the last pretty good plus money odds you're going to get on. If he comes out and gets another sack this week, you're going to be looking at laying much steeper odds here. So I would consider betting Aiden Hutchinson right now. Shop around for the best number right now at FanDuel. He's plus 200.
Yeah, totally agree. This is my largest bet of the awards market in the entire season. I can get you a plus 250 on both MGM and Caesars right now. So
perfect.
Definitely take advantage of them, and I'm with you. Do we want to do a chalk donkey parlay real quick before we get out of here?
Yes.
They've been so profitable this year.
Yeah, we got to keep putting money down the drain.
All right. I don't like the Bills over the Dolphins. Chiefs over the Colts. Eagles over the Commanders.
Such a trap game. Yeah, I don't know if we have one this week. I don't know if there's enough.
Bengals for sure.
Yeah, okay. Bengals. I like the Rams.
I was gonna say, what about just
you can
Bengals
literally just say
Rams?
Bengals Rams? It's plus money. Yeah,
plus 120. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can get on board with that.
All right, the buy low chalk donkey parlay.
There you
don't
go.
You don't want to buy the chalk donkey when it's at its peak. You want to buy it low. It's 0-2. This is the time to hop in on the chalk donkey. Rams and the Bengals.
There you go.
All right. Do we have any look ahead lines for next week? Or are we saving that?
No, I was actually looking at them. I didn't see anything that really.
Yeah, I didn't love any either.
So stay tuned for Sunday night. Maybe we'll post some there. But yeah, nothing really stuck out to me as opposed to last week. And I was looking at this time. I loved a ton of the lines, but yeah, nothing really speaking to me.
All right, so stay tuned. Check out our Twitter page around 7:45, 8 o'clock Eastern time Sunday night at BetRightPod. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Smash the like button on YouTube. Hope everyone out there has a profitable week number 3 in the NFL. From Jeff and Rue, we are the Bet Right Sports Betting Podcast, because every time you bet with us, you bet right.